I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. I always believed I was the kind of guy who could trust his wife, Emily. We'd been together for over 10 years, married for 5. We had our fights, sure, but mostly we were good, or so I thought. She was the typical wife, beautiful, sharp-tongued when she wanted to be, always making herself the victim in every argument. But she loved to spin stories, so I just learned to ignore her bitchy side. I thought she was my soulmate. That was until about 3 months ago when the cracks started showing. It all began subtly. She started acting weird about her phone, always hiding it, even more than usual. She'd get defensive if I asked to see it, which, honestly, wasn't typical for us. She would say she was learning how to support me better, especially after I hit my 1-year sobriety milestone. She claimed she wanted to be my rock, that she was proud of me. At the time, I appreciated her support, even if her tone was often bitchy or dismissive. But I couldn't help feeling there's something off beneath her words. She'd be too quick to change the subject, or brush me off when I'd ask about her day. Then came the little things, missing phone calls, her being late from work more often, and a strange nervousness in her eyes whenever I came near her phone or computer. I started snooping, of course. I'd check her emails, her texts, nothing concrete at first, just vague things, her being busy, her saying she was learning more about how to help me, that kind of thing, but I knew better. I knew she was hiding something. I could feel it. The feeling grew stronger, especially after I noticed her meeting with her counselor, David. She told me she'd been seeing him for support, that it was part of her effort to understand my addiction and be a better partner. She said they discussed ways to help me stay sober, how to handle my triggers, and that their meetings were purely about that. She even had the receptionist document their weekly meetings. I checked the calendar. Yes, they were weekly meetings, always in his office. I thought that was normal, caring even. But then I started noticing other things. I'd come home late from work and find her texting on her phone, in the bathroom for hours. She'd quickly hide it, and when I'd ask, she'd say she was talking to her friends or learning new coping skills. She'd roll her eyes when I pressed her, saying I was paranoid or that I didn't trust her, but I wasn't paranoid. I just knew her too well. The woman was manipulative as hell, always spinning stories, always lying. It was like she was trying to convince herself she was innocent, even as she was doing the opposite. One day I saw her car parked near David's office after a session. It wasn't unusual for her to go there. I knew she was trying to understand my struggles. But then I saw her kiss him goodbye, just a little peck on the lips. I froze, my heart sank. It was like I'd been punched in the stomach. I knew then that this wasn't about supporting me. It was about her seeking something else, something she was hiding from me. The betrayal hit hard. It was a mixture of shock, rage, and heartbreak all at once. I couldn't believe she'd do this, especially after all her lies about wanting to help. That night I stayed up going through every shred of evidence I could find. Her texts, her emails, her calendar. The clues piled up. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. Part of me wanted to scream, to break everything in sight. But I also knew I needed a plan. A way to get her to admit what she'd done and to figure out what I really wanted from this mess. I was hurt, furious, and completely lost. The trust I had in her was shattered, and I realized nothing could ever go back to normal. Not after this. Not after I saw her kiss him goodbye, knowing it was more than just a friendly meeting. It was an affair. And it was just the beginning of what would become a very long, very painful journey. The night I found out everything, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying that damn kiss, that look in her eyes when she said she was just learning how to support me. Yeah, support. That's what she called it. Supporting me while she was sneaking into her counselor's office. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I felt like I'd been sucker punched by someone I trusted implicitly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the way she looked at him, familiar, intimate, like they shared some secret world I was never supposed to find out about. I decided I had to catch her, confront her face to face, not through some nasty message or note. That's how I roll. I wanted her to lie to me, to see her squirm. So I waited until morning, when she'd go out to run errands. I knew her routine well enough by then. She always exaggerated her busy schedule, claimed she had to meet clients or go shopping for support supplies or whatever bullshit she was feeding herself. When she left, I followed her. Not in a creepy way, just enough to see where she went. Her car turned into the parking lot of David's office building. I parked a few blocks away, watching from a distance. I saw her go inside and I felt my stomach tighten. That's when I knew for sure. I had to see it with my own eyes. I waited until she was supposed to be gone for an hour or so, then I snuck back over and slipped inside. Her purse, her phone, her keys. That's when I saw it, a sequence of texts. They weren't just about support or sobriety. No, they were explicit, flirty, suggestive, downright embarrassing. She was talking about how he always knows how to make her feel alive, how she misses their secret meetings, how she loved the way he touched her when no one was around. My stomach turned to ice. I read every word, feeling sick and furious at once. How could she lie to my face? Pretend she was just helping me when she was out there cheating. I wanted to destroy everything. I wanted to scream, but instead, I just took a picture of the screen on my phone, proof enough to confront her. I slipped out, heart pounding, and sat in my car for a while just trying to breathe. My hands trembled. I felt betrayed on a level I'd never experienced before. My wife, my partner, was screwing around behind my back with my counselor. The person I trusted to help me get clean, to support me. He was in on it too. The betrayal was complete, and I knew I couldn't just pretend it. Didn't happen. I had proof now. Everything was laid bare. When I finally went home, I was a mess. I poured myself a drink, something I'd sworn I'd never do again after I hit my sobriety milestone. I sat in the dark, staring at the screen of my phone, debating whether to call her or confront her in person. I knew I wouldn't get any honest explanation. The urge to explode was overwhelming, but I also felt a strange numbness creeping in. I'd spent years building this life, and now it was crumbling in front of me. I decided I'd wait till she got home. I wanted her to face me, see the hurt and anger in my eyes. When she finally walked through the door, she looked guilty, more guilty than I'd ever seen her. Her lips pressed into a thin line when she saw my face. I didn't bother with small talk. I pulled out my phone, showed her the messages, and watched her face drain of color. She stammered, denied, tried to lie her way out of it, said it was all a misunderstanding, that she was just supporting me, that David was just giving her advice, that it was innocent, but I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I was too hurt, too angry. I told her I knew everything and that I wanted her out of my house. Her protests were typical, loud, bitchy, full of lies. She kept saying she loved me, that she was just confused, that she was trying to help herself and me. I just nodded, feeling like I was watching a bad movie. I knew she was full of shit, and I realized I couldn't stay with someone who could do this to me. Not after I trusted her for so long. That night I didn't sleep either, but I cried. For the betrayal, for the years I wasted believing in her, for the emptiness that suddenly filled my chest. I thought about what my next move would be. I knew I couldn't just forgive her, not this time. I had to think about myself, about protecting what's left of my dignity. The pain is raw, and some part of me still hopes she'll come clean, admit everything, and maybe, just maybe, try to make amends. But I know better. Trust, once broken this badly, is damn near impossible to repair. It's a long road ahead, and I'm not sure where I'll end up. All I know is that I have to do what's right for me now. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. After that night, my mind was like a tornado, thoughts spinning out of control, emotions swinging from rage to deep sadness. I couldn't believe I'd let someone like Emily walk all over me, or that I'd been so blind for so long. Every little thing about her now seemed suspicious. I started noticing even more subtle signs of her lying, how she'd suddenly be busy when I brought up her meetings, or how she'd avoid eye contact when I asked about her day. I knew I had to decide what to do next. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly questioning, constantly hurt. I told her I needed space, that I needed to think. She threw a fit, of course. Started bitching about how I was overreacting, saying I was crazy, that she was trying to support me. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was done with her bullshit. I told her I found the texts, that I knew everything, and that I wanted her out of the house immediately. That didn't go over well. She called me all kinds of names, accused me of making her look bad, told me I was paranoid, that I was controlling her life. She kept saying she loved me, like that was supposed to fix everything. But I saw right through her lies now. I knew her game. She was just trying to spin her way out of it, to manipulate me into feeling guilty or small. And honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could the woman I loved do this? How could she cheat on me, lie about it, and then turn around and act like I was the one in the wrong? In the days that followed, I started planning my next move. I reached out to a lawyer, figuring I needed legal advice about the house and our assets. Before I did that, I needed some time to breathe and gather my thoughts. I stayed mostly in my room, avoiding her, but I kept the evidence locked in my phone. I refused to let her steal my peace or gaslight me into doubting what I knew was true. She kept texting me, begging, crying, trying to guilt me into giving her a chance, but I wasn't having any of it. One afternoon, she barged into my room, bitchy as ever, demanding to know what I was doing with my lawyer's number. I looked at her with tired eyes and said, "I'm done pretending. You crossed a line, Emily. I don't know how long you've been lying, but I'm not stupid anymore." She looked like I'd slapped her. She tried to deny everything again, but I cut her off. "You lied about everything, about your meetings, about your support, about us. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be married to someone who cheats on me with my counselor. That's a betrayal I can't forgive." She lost her temper then, screaming, crying, calling me a possessive control freak, but I didn't care. I felt numb, honestly. I've been carrying this weight for too long, and now I finally saw the truth. She was a bitch, a manipulative, selfish bitch who had no respect for me or our marriage. I told her she needed to leave, and she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat alone in the quiet, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. That night, I finally allowed myself to feel everything: anger, sadness, disgust. I realized I'd wasted so many years on someone who never truly cared about me, but I also knew I had to rebuild. I had to focus on my recovery, my mental health, my future. It was a huge blow, but it was also a wake-up call. I couldn't let her destroy me or my sobriety, not anymore. I deserved better. I deserved someone who was honest, loyal, and respectful, and I was determined to find that at some point. Right now, all I could do was take it one day at a time and start healing from this nightmare. The days after she left felt like a strange kind of silence I'd never experienced before. My apartment was eerily quiet, almost deafeningly so. No more bitchy comments, no more manipulative lies, no more her trying to convince me she was supporting me while secretly being in bed with my counselor. I kept replaying everything in my head: her sneaky meetings, the kiss, the texts, all of it. It was like a sick nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I threw myself into figuring out what I needed to do next. First, I contacted a lawyer. If she thought she could walk out and pretend everything was fine, she was dead wrong. I needed to protect my rights, my home, and most importantly, my sanity. I also started documenting everything: screenshots of texts, emails, dates, times. I wanted to make sure I had solid evidence if I needed to go to court or confront her again. Meanwhile, I also had to face the emotional fallout. I was furious, devastated, and honestly pretty numb. How could someone I loved do this to me? How did I not see it coming? I kept asking myself those questions over and over. I felt betrayed on a level that cut so deep it was hard to breathe sometimes. I'd trusted her with my soul, and she'd thrown it all away for what? Some secret affair with my counselor. It was so sick, so broken, I didn't even recognize the woman I'd married. One night I sat on the couch, staring at my phone, trying to block out the ache in my chest. That's when I saw her name pop up on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was shaky, full of tears. She begged me to forgive her, said she'd made a mistake, that she was just confused, and that she loved me more than anything. She even played the victim, saying she was trapped in her own head, and that she didn't mean for any of this to happen. Yeah, right. I listened, feeling nothing but contempt. I told her she should leave me alone, that I needed space, and that I'd think about everything once I was ready. I knew I wasn't going to take her back, not now, not ever, but part of me wanted her to realize the damage she'd done. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she lost, what she threw away for a quick fuck behind my back. That's when I made the decision. I was going to cut all ties. No more calls, no more texts. I was going to focus on myself for a while, rebuild my confidence, my self-respect. I didn't want any of her lies or manipulations anymore. She burned that bridge and I was done playing her game. The hardest part was facing how I'd let her control so much of my life, how I'd ignored the signs and made excuses for her. That's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. I'd given her so many chances, and she just kept lying, kept manipulating. Now I see clearly. I was too blind, too naive. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm angry, yes, but also determined. I need to rebuild my life without her, without the lies, without the betrayal. I owe that to myself. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I thought about everything I'd lost, but more importantly, about the person I wanted to become. Someone stronger than this. Someone who wouldn't be so easily fooled again. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I deserved better. I'd start from scratch, heal, and move on. The road ahead was long, but I was finally ready to walk it without her holding me back. The weeks went by, and I threw myself into rebuilding what I could of my life. I started therapy again, not just for my sobriety, but to process everything that went down. Honestly, it was a relief to finally talk openly about how hurt and betrayed I felt. I realized I'd been carrying all this pain around, not just from her betrayal, but from years of neglecting my own needs. Therapy helped me see how much I had sacrificed, how much I'd ignored my intuition, and how much I'd let her manipulate my feelings. It was also around this time I finally had the courage to confront the aftermath of her betrayal more directly. I reached out to her mother, someone I'd always been close to, just to get some perspective. She was sympathetic, naturally, but told me I had to do what was best for myself. She warned me that Emily was manipulative and that I shouldn't let her guilt trip me or fall for her tears. That conversation was a turning point. I realized I had to stop letting her control the narrative, stop giving her power over my emotions. One day, I gathered all the evidence I had, screenshots, emails, recordings of our conversations, and I met with a lawyer. We discussed the possibility of filing for divorce, protecting my assets, and making sure she couldn't manipulate me any further. That was a tough call. Part of me still wanted to believe she'd come clean, that she'd apologize and take responsibility. But deep down, I knew she was a pathological liar. She'd lie even if the truth hit her in the face. I didn't want to keep playing that game. I needed to be firm and decisive. Meanwhile, I started focusing on myself, going back to the gym, reconnecting with friends I'd drifted away from, and doing things I genuinely enjoyed. It was strange. Initially, I still felt this gnawing ache, a mix of anger and sadness that I didn't think would ever go away. But slowly it started to get better. I could breathe again. I could see a future without her constantly looming over me. It wasn't easy, and honestly, there were days I felt like breaking down. But each day I forced myself to keep going, to remind myself I was better off without her chaos. One afternoon, I was in a coffee shop when I overheard a conversation. A guy was talking about how his wife had cheated on him with his best friend. His voice was full of pain, but also a bit of relief. I couldn't help but listen. It made me realize I wasn't alone in this. Betrayal like that isn't rare, and it's not something you just get over overnight. But it also reminded me that I deserved better. I deserved someone loyal, someone honest, not threatening, manipulative, or sneaky. That moment was a wake-up call. I made a promise to myself: no more accepting behavior that hurt me. No more justifying her actions or pretending she was sorry. If she ever tried to come back, she'd have to earn my trust back. And honestly, I don't think I was going to give her that chance. I was done playing the fool. I was done being the victim of someone else's lies. I had to focus on healing, rebuilding, and becoming a person I could respect again. It's been hard, really hard, but I finally feel like I'm regaining some sense of control. I'm not perfect, and I still get angry sometimes, especially when I think about the times I doubted myself or blamed myself for her actions. But I know I won't let her destroy me anymore. I'll use this experience as a lesson. Trust your instincts, listen to your gut, and never ignore the signs. Because when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes that's the only way to save yourself. Now, looking back, I realize that the whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think love was about loyalty, about trusting someone wholeheartedly. But I've learned that sometimes the most important thing is knowing your worth and being willing to walk away from betrayal. Emily's betrayal cut deep, but it also forced me to confront my own boundaries and the kind of person I want to be. I've come to understand that real strength isn't just about holding things together when everything's falling apart. It's about knowing when to let go and choosing yourself. I've also gained a new perspective on how to handle betrayal in the future. I'll never ignore those gut feelings again. When something feels off, I'll listen to that voice inside me that warns me to be cautious. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, rebuilding it is almost impossible. But more than that, I've learned to prioritize my own well-being above everything else. Protecting my sobriety, my mental health, and my peace of mind has become my new focus. Most importantly, I've realized I'm not alone in this experience. Betrayal hurts, but it's something many go through. Sharing this story, even here, helps me process what happened. It's a reminder that I survived, that I'm still standing. I've accepted that Emily's actions say more about her than about me. I refuse to carry her guilt or blame myself for her choices. She chose her path, and I chose mine, away from her lies and manipulations. Now I'm working hard on rebuilding my life. I see a future where I trust again, but more carefully this time. I know it takes time, patience, and a lot of healing, but I'm committed to that. I don't want to be bitter or angry forever. I want to be stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This whole experience has shown me how precious trust and honesty are, and I will never take them for granted again. So, to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs and never settle for less than you deserve. You're worth honesty, loyalty, and respect. And if someone betrays you, remember, your happiness and peace of mind come first. Walk away if you have to. Because in the end, surviving betrayal isn't just about getting through it. It's about coming out on the other side stronger, more aware, and finally free.